For the actual tutorial part of this video, how to put a 2ZZ on an engine stand, or at least it was my first time doing it. Down here for this through hole, I have an M10 by 1.25 with a serrated nut and a washer. I have the washer there because of the serrated nut, but if you have a regular nut, that'll work too. Same with this bottom hole, this through hole. And then on the top, I have the two M12 bolts, M12 by 1.25, 100 millimeter, which 80 millimeter ones might work too. You might need some washers. This also heavily depends on the engine stand you have. This one is a Home Depot engine stand. Then I got these 5/8 nuts that I got all this from Home Depot, but along with the same washer and then the bolt, and it threaded nicely. And I was able to deadlift the engine block onto the stand. All stuff from Home Depot. For stand was $60. Nuts, bolts, washers like 30-ish for all of them. And then I have one spare washer. With me I have all of the hardware that, or at least hopefully all the hardware that I need to put this block on this stand. And shockingly, these two bolts are what I used in this video for my exhaust. These were the spare bolts I had, and I realized that I didn't need to buy new bolts because these ones might work. This M12 by 1.25 millimeter, 100 millimeter bolt goes into this hole, and then this hole as well. And you can use the same thing with some nuts on some of these bottom bolts, I believe. I don't know which exact bottom bolts, but I don't think I can use this one anywhere else. These are the only ones it goes into, which is also why I have the other bolts. I was also told putting some grease in here is a real lifesaver. So with the M10 bolts with the M10 nuts, these are serrated nuts, so I don't want to put the nut side on the engine block side without having a washer on it, because these nuts will dig into the washer instead of the engine block. So I wanted to put it on the starter, and one of these two bolts right back here, but the 80 millimeters were just barely short enough for these two with my engine stand, so I'm using the bottom two. And then the M12 bolts on the top, I'm going to need to get spacers for, because they fit, but these are way longer than I thought they'd be, so I'm going to need spacers. Even if I had 90 millimeter ones, I would still probably need spacers, but I want to check with the bell housing bolts to see if I could just use those before I go buy more. Take a good guess. Bell housing bolts are way too small for this. And then these are way too long, so it sits right about here with too much space left. So out of there, option one is to get M12 spacers for these, because the amount of washers I have will not be enough even for one bolt. I would just need like an inch or like half inch or something spacer. Option two, maybe I can use this somewhere, but even then I don't have a nut for that. And there are no there are no threaded holes for the M10s anywhere. And the starters wouldn't do anything either, so the only thread holes are the M12, so either spacers or nuts, and I'd rather just get spacers so I could have the engine mounted up here. Jeez, this is complicated. I mean, I got 2 out of 4, but jeez. With the bolts in as much as I want to thread it in, because like I think there is probably more thread available, but it just tightens up there, so I don't think these bolts are ever supposed to go into the block this far. There's still that much space left, so I would need like a good inch spacer maybe. I can't hold my micrometer camera and this thing at the same time, but the space between this part and the bottom of the head of the bolt is 1 inch, so I think a 1 inch spacer would be more than enough for this. The flex plate, which I've been needing to take off anyways, is giving me some clearance issues. So 14 millimeter. At least gonna remove them in a star pattern. Something smells like it's burning. God damn. These bolts are now garbage. I couldn't use them even if I wanted to. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's 8. This I believe just comes right off now. And then there's another plate on here that comes right off. Flex plate bolts, and there's my rear main seal. I was not expecting to take this thing off yet, but here I am. It's probably, I think it's leaking from the rear main seal as well. Nice. So great. I have no idea how to take this out. So put the grease on whenever you have all this situated, because the grease keeps on getting on my skin and arm hair and it's kind of annoying, but it's fine for now. This is the best I could come up with what I got. M10 by 1.25, 80mm with serrated nuts, and then the washers, that way I don't damage the engine block, or I guess the girdle in this case. That bolts up nicely. I learned that engine stands are not all built the same, so we got the 2 bottom ones done, 2 top ones are alright. Had this thing kind of lopsided, not the greatest, but I do need a roughly 1-inch spacer, maybe, 1-inch spacer, maybe greater. I want to see how far I could thread this down, because these are not meant to be threaded all the way in. They were never designed to be. How much leeway do I got here? Right there, it still feels good to thread. This distance is... I keep on messing up the camera, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to look at it with my eyes. Can I just like get a... Oh, yeah, this will work better. Ooh. Alright. Let me thread that in a little more. I don't even know what spacers Home Depot has. Nope. 1.08. A little more. How much will a little more get me? Still feels good to thread. Alright. I could thread it even further than this, right? It will give me slight resistance whenever it's done threading. Yeah, so 1-inch spacer for that one, and then let me thread this one in a lot. Alright. Yep, I just need some 1-inch spacers, and then I am good. I can mount this with 1-inch spacers. I know it's as close to the middle as the crankshaft as possible, and I could probably find another orientation, but this, for what it is right now, is really fine. It'll mount all right on top and bottom points, and yeah, it'll be fine. So 1-inch spacer, 1-inch spacer. I'm going to hold a wrench here and impact these bolts whenever I have all this ready. So I'm just going to impact these bolts on. So I don't think these have any torque specs, just mainly make it snug, make it really snug. And then these bolts I'm going to just tighten down by hand and wrench nicely. And I already have some washers, so I don't need any more. Snug, 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 snug. Impact down. There's the nuts on the opposite sides of these with the washers on them already. But I do get to return one of my sets of washers that I didn't end up needing. That's good. Before I cut to the next clip, well, I'm taking these to Home Depot just to make sure I have a reference bolt. But whenever I said that these holes weren't meant to take these long of bolts, this is what I meant. I'm not exactly damaging the threads, but it's more of like, I guess this counts as technically retapping it, honestly. But I don't know. Those old bell housing bolts were in there for the past 25 years, and I've seen oil leaks and I've seen heat cycles. So of course the threads in there aren't perfect. But like this thing, that's how this is going to be right now. The next clip will either be tomorrow or at night, since I don't have enough time to do this for the rest of the day. I was hoping that this would be it and I could put the engine on the stand, but not right now. Like I said, next clip is next day. They didn't have any 1-inch spacers, but they did have these 5/8 inch nuts, which I put a washer on just because why not. And this is roughly, what's this one? 0.12 inches. So the space right now with the nuts and then the washer is, this is at 1.28, 1.29. Yeah, you get the point. But these do tighten on nicely with the ratchet. I don't want to snug them down too far because I don't want to damage the block, but I also don't know how tight these should be. That's pretty snug though. And then the bottom ones, I still have to tighten those, which means I have to tilt the block over and move the flex plate out of the way, but Alright, tripod setup. I needed the 3/8. So I have the first set of washers over there, and then there's my spare washer, but since I was only able to get serrated flange nuts, they would have bitten into the block, so I had to put some washers on that, so that way they wouldn't hurt the block at all. This not a 17. What was that, 15 or 16? What? I thought that was 17. I did a 15 millimeter flare nut wrench, I believe. I'm not gonna make this too tight. I just don't know how tight it's supposed to be. Tight enough to not damage it, I guess. Tighten down. I would think I can lift the block. I think I can. This is the widest shot I can get. So this wheel locks, I'm pretty sure. Well, it's not gonna spin, but still has no friction. Whatever. All of the nuts and bolts here are tightened up as much as I can. Alright. These gloves that came with my Amazon jumper cables from over 4 years ago, they hold up alright. But since most of the finishes on this block are kind of sharp, I'd be safely sorry. Oh, the crankshaft is gonna spin. That's nice. These 2 points maybe? Would that even be safe? Not safe for the block, safe for. Oh. Oh. Wow, that made it easy finding the right spot. Just go into the hole, please. Oh my god, I got it. Oh, wow, that was actually easier than I thought it would be. I got that mostly on camera. Wow. And then, we're not done yet. Get the gloves off. Woo! That was... I want to be able to spin it 180, or not 180, 360 without any hiccups at all. Yes, I can. Though sadly, the engine isn't exactly on par with the splines. Like if I were to have the engine up right here, it doesn't line up with the hole completely, which is the fault of me, but I'd rather it. Being like this isn't a bad thing. Because then I could take the pin, put it right here. And I'm sure if I were to, like have it as much this way as possible, tightening the cylinder head onto here, just like this, I'm sure it would be fine. It's better than having it on the floor at the very least.